morning, Speaker Ralston and honorable members of the House. My name is Valerie Boehm, and I'm honored to be here at the request of Pickens County Board of Education Chairman Tucker Green, as well as District 11 Representative Rick Jaspers, who is also the chairman of the Education Committee for the House. I am representing teachers in my legislative district, and I'm really happy to be speaking with you today. I will now respond to some questions that you submitted to me on behalf of these teachers. Legal and ethical expectations of teachers. Are courts supportive of teachers? Pre-2006, for the most part, yes. Most of the court cases involved the First Amendment to the Constitution regarding free speech. In 1968, Pickering versus the Board of Education showed that a local high school teacher who was fired for writing an editorial to his local newspaper was actually fired incorrectly because what he wrote about was actually in the public interest regarding funds of the Board of Education, and the Supreme Court said that he could not be fired for that. Since 2006, though, a few things have changed. So there was a case in the Supreme Court, Garcetti versus Ceballos, where the Supreme Court ruled that public employees actually do not retain First Amendment rights to the protection of free speech as part of their official job duties. And this decision imposed just an additional hurdle for teachers and other school employees to clear before their free speech is protected. Similarly, a circuit court ruling, the Seventh Circuit Court, ruled in 2016 that a public school teacher did not have a First Amendment right to free speech when he used a racial slur, but for the purpose of actually telling students not to use racial slurs. So his intentions were good, but he was disciplined because of that, and he was not supported by the court. Something of important consideration in our digital day and age is social media posts, and these present a really legal and ethical gray area when it comes to First Amendment freedoms. So I think we can look to previous rulings for guidance, keeping in mind that more recent cases have been decided with a detrimental impact to a teacher's First Amendment rights. So that's something that should be very clearly laid out to all new teachers and all teachers in general. The next question was, does the Code of Ethics expect too much from teachers? And I would argue that for the most part, no, it does not. Specifically when it presumes that teachers should be in legal compliance, exercising professional conduct, free of the influence of drugs or alcohol, honest, accurate, and responsible with funds, as well as compliant with confidential documents and mandated reporting. However, the standard 9 right here leaves a little bit of gray area, which I would like to explore further. Teachers should also be expected to administer tests fairly. That is absolutely fair. So in this question about Standard 9, let's look at some of the language. So it states that professional conduct includes but is not limited to behavior that is detrimental to the health, welfare, and discipline, or morals. Morals are really subjective to the community and based on those community values. And this language is vague. As a result, it gives districts ample leeway, maybe perhaps too much leeway, in punishing teachers who go against prevailing norms of the community. In particular, this could impact teachers who feel politically different than the majority of their community members, and or teachers who have an alternate lifestyle that is maybe LGBTQ. And this really reaches into the professional's private life when perhaps it should not. And does this really happen? Do teachers really get in trouble for this kind of stuff? According to this report from 2002 to 2004, this is the percentage of people, professionals who were, their license was revoked due to this professional conduct standard 9. So as you can see, it was almost, it was 16%, a little over 16% of the revocations of license came from this bucket. And I do think that it could stand a little bit more clarity in the language in order to help these people who are getting their livelihood taken away because of this one right here. So my recommendation is to add language that promotes tolerance and diversity and protects those with minority viewpoints or lifestyles, not in the classroom, but really in their private life. If a teacher posts a political argument on Facebook, is that something that they should have their license revoked for? I think that does deserve a little bit more clarity. The next question was, is there good communication in schools? And I think yes. I think that there are various sources of information, especially in our digital age. And this can be social media, and there are really a variety of expectations depending on the school. So high schools may have different expectations. A lot of the teachers may use the Remind app to communicate with students, whereas the younger grade teachers may really communicate primarily with the parents. And a lot of districts do employ a public relations director. Ours does. Her name is Destiny Shope, and she does a great job of handling the public relations for our district and communication. So I think that we are actually really set here. The next question was, do all students have the same opportunities for learning? And unfortunately, no, they do not. So schools in our society are viewed really as a panacea. We are the cure for everything, and we have to treat everything. So everything from offering meals to students who cannot afford it, to sometimes even medical care through our nurses and things such as that. Now, in school, the opportunities for students are, for the most part, really equal. However, when we start to think about at-home learning, we get a really large gap here. Nothing highlighted this more than our COVID pandemic back in March when we sent students home. Now, Pickens County schools are amazing in that they offer Chromebooks to every single student. And when we're in school, that provides really equal opportunities with our Wi-Fi network for students to get online and to learn. However, when we sent them home with these Chromebooks, we realized that a lot of students just don't have that reliable access to internet. In a 2018 FCC report, it showed that this is a problem really unique to rural areas. So this is something in my key demographic and in your key demographic that needs to be looked at. So Fulton County, for example, urban Fulton County, 96.4% of people have reliable access to internet. Compare that to my district, my county, Pickens, only 88.7%. Now that's still a pretty good portion that have reliable access. However, that's almost still the 12% that don't have that reliable access. Gilmer County and Fannin, both north of us, have even less. Even though Fannin's is cut off, it does say 80%. So 20% potentially of students do not have access to internet at home. As we continue to survive this pandemic, I think this is something that really needs to be pushed forward in the agenda. So my recommendations would be to consider legislation that helps students have more access to home or public Wi-Fi. And this really should target Title I rural schools. Districts who are Title I in more urban communities like Fulton County have more access to the internet. Students can either walk to a location that has internet or can access public transportation, and we just simply do not have that option here in Pickens County. The next question was, are we assessing students properly? And I think this really depends on how you mean we. So teachers, I think, are assessing students properly. I think specifically if they are using the Stiggins, Chapawis, and Arter method of the 5 keys of assessment, that shows that assessment is reliable, authentic, and valid. So those 5 keys are: does your assessment have a clear purpose, a clear target, a sound design, effective communication, and student involvement? I'd like to use an example now from my own classroom. In my classroom, I teach dramatic writing for film, television, and Theater 1. In my classroom, we did a project where students had to present basically the thesis or the main idea of a screenplay that they were going to write. And when they did this, it was just a couple of sentences, and it was peer reviewed. So they had to go and pitch their idea to other peers and get immediate feedback from their peers. They also had to present it to me. This was a performance skill and product that they were performing, as well as a written performance. And they went back if their pitch didn't get funded by their peers. If they didn't think it was a strong thesis, they had to go back and rewrite it and repitch the assignment. So this does match all of these clear targets. The purpose was clear based on our standards. The target was clear. They knew that they had to pass their pitch and get funded. And it was designed with student involvement and designed based on the Chapawis matched keys. So it was a performance target rating a performance project. So it was of sound design. There was effective communication because students got immediate feedback from their peers whether or not they were funded. And then there was obviously student involvement in the peer layout portion of it. So I do think that teachers, we know our students and we know our classrooms and we know our material better than anybody else. And I think that teachers really do a good job of assessment. I think when we refer to the state of Georgia, then unfortunately, no, we are not doing a good job assessing. I think authentic, valid assessment must contain those 5 keys. And if we look at our milestones or end of course tests, they just don't. They don't contain all of those 5 keys. So they certainly do not provide specific feedback from which students can learn. So students get a raw score, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and that's really all they know. They know if they've met or if they've not met or if they've exceeded, and they don't learn exactly what they need help in, like specifically questions. They don't get the test back. They don't get to look and see, oh, I missed this one. Here's what I did wrong. Here's how I can fix it. And that's really key to assessment. You have to learn from your mistakes. It also has no student involvement in the creation or assessment. Therefore, students don't have necessarily that motivation to do well on it because they've really not taken a part in creating it. And then finally, it only uses selected response, aka multiple choice, or limited open-ended questions, and that is just not sound test design. So we know, again, from Chapois keys that the target method match has to be sound. So for assessing knowledge, like you might on a test, the strongest thing you can do is a written response and personal communication. So selected response is only rated as good according to Chapois. So we can do better with this. I do have some recommendations. So first of all, allow for differentiation in how schools can show mastery of standards. All schools are different, all teachers are different, all students are different, we learn differently, they express their knowledge differently. Allow for some portfolios, allow for some performance review assignments in order to show the mastery of those standards. Finally, just trust the teachers and administrators that we know how to assess our students, and this will help tremendously. And that concludes my presentation today. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you will think about my recommendations. I'm available for questions or follow-up if you need me via email. Thank you so much.